This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
And welcome back to Gone Racin. Mr. Brendan Gaughan, Mr. Jeffrey Motley at our new digs at the Circa Casino. And Mr. Motley, we are talking all things that were Bristol Motor Speedway this weekend, back under the lights, and a lot of Bristol did what we wanted to do to be the last race of the playoffs.
Yeah, Bristol always is one of those races where it's probably a good chance that somebody's going to have something go wrong. I said before we started the show, I said I did not have Joey Logano missing the race on my bingo card, or missing the playoffs after the first round. So he certainly was the big loser. Denny Hamlin, I think a lot of people think he could be the favorite to win this thing, and he certainly served notice because he was very, very dominant in that race.
Yeah, Denny led 142 laps in that race, so Denny had a heck of a run on that one. Absolutely. Christopher Bell led 187 laps. Teammates were right there. But, man, Joey Logano, the big loser, and I say that, it sounds so terrible when you say the big loser, but Joey is the one that he was on the outside looking in, right? I mean, he had a decent cushion, but Bristol, we talked about it. Daytona being the last round of the regular season, Bristol being the last round of the first round, the Roval being the last round of the second. Martinsville, they have amazing final races for the playoff cutoffs, and I think it's just absolutely awesome.
Well, no, you're exactly right, but I also appreciated what Joey said. He said, look, we had two opportunities the 2 weeks before,
Yep.
And when you're running back in the pack and you're not running well, you're more susceptible to get caught up in an accident. I remember Jeremy Mayfield one time described racing at Bristol. He said it was like putting your clothes in the dryer. He said, you're probably going to lose a sock, or somebody's going to lose a sock. Well, Joey lost his spot in the championship because of it. But I thought it was good for him to come out and say, look, they have not run well this year. They have not run well, certainly toward the second half of the season. And a guy who also has not run well but managed to get in by his chinny chin chin, and now he finds himself right back at the top of the standings because the reset is Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, Martin had a bad day, but he had enough to weather the storm, so to speak, and he got himself back into the playoffs. And now he's the point leader once again, which, talk about feast or famine when you win the regular season. So he'll take that and be very happy. Yeah. Good runs. Michael McDowell had a good run, just not enough.
Yeah, he had to win.
Yeah, he had to win. So McDowell had a good run. Harvick, not good enough. Ran decent throughout the night, but not good enough in the end to overtake what he needed to overtake. Bubba Wallace, solid night. Made sure he did what he had to do. Crew chief made great calls. They put themselves in. So all good things for those guys. But McDowell, Stenhouse, they needed to have W's. They couldn't get it. And then Logano, Harvick are the ones knocked out.
Yeah, and it's tough for Kevin Harvick being his final season, final race at Bristol as well. But, one thing, we went into this playoff, and we were kind of talking about Martin Truex Jr. and William Byron and what he'd done this year. Well, hello, folks. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson have pretty much served notice. Right now, they're the two guys to beat. I mean, week in and week out, they're running well. They're running up front. They went 1-2 this week, and Larson was up front a lot of the time. And granted, we've got a few more races for someone to establish themselves. But right now, I think it's Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson. Those two guys right now are definitely leading the way.
Absolutely. Let's look about the odds at Bristol for what Denny Hamlin did. Denny win the race was 750. Top three was a plus 210. Group A was 270. Had good return in Group A. The top Toyota was 210. He was even money versus Kyle Larson. And, of course, the favorite versus Christopher Bell at minus 130. So decent return for Denny on a lot of those, especially that plus 750. We did say that was a pretty high odd for a guy like Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, and it was killing me because I picked Kyle Larson to win Group A. The guy finishes second in the race and second in his group.
And we also had Chris Buescher to win, and he finishes fourth in Group B and loses Group B to third place. So a couple heartbreakers on that one. Top 10, Denny Hamlin, of course, was your favorite, plus 750 and 210 to win. Kyle Larson was a plus 160 for a top three. Christopher Bell plus 225. But look at Chris Buescher, another amazingly strong run. Are we believing in Buescher yet? I certainly am.
If you don't believe in anything, right? You don't believe in anything at all, because he's right there to me behind Hamlin and Larson. He's my next guy.
Absolutely. You look at Michael McDowell, great run. Ricky Stenhouse, 10th, another great run, but they needed more than just great runs. Ty Gibbs with a 5th place finish, and Ty Gibbs led 102 laps, really looked good. Ty solidifying a really fantastic freshman season here for the kid. And then Chase Elliott with a good run, but just 7th. Good runs aren't going to do what Chase Elliott needs. Brad Keselowski, William Byron, one of the other championship favorites there. So a lot of guys still with good runs, and were able to get themselves in through the playoffs.
And I give a lot of credit to both Michael McDowell and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a couple of guys that came in really knowing they had to win to make it in. And neither one of those guys would you really expect to run top 10 at Bristol. It's just never been there. And both of them ran top 10. Michael McDowell almost ran top 5. So kudos to those guys. Yep. And you know what? It gives them something to build on going forward.
And one that we're not talking about on this screen, but Carson Hocevar, 11th place finish in that Legacy Motor Club. And Eric Jones had a great run, finished 8th in one of the stages, was really looking good later in the race.
He had a tire go down, I believe, but I think it's one of the first times that the 42 cars beaten Eric Jones this year.
It was Carson Hocevar did a really nice job. So the points as we sit now, the reset once again. We talked, now it's second round of the playoffs. We're going to start at Texas this weekend. And Martin Truex Jr., who we were talking about on the outside looking in, Martin Truex Jr. now goes back to the point lead with that. So he's second. They're tied right now with William Byron and him because the number of bonus points. So William Byron and him, they are tied for the point lead, and the bubble starts with Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and then Bubba Wallace last, 14 points out as they sit right now.
Yeah, but you look at this right now, and there's the tracks that we've got in this next series of races, these 3 races. The guy that I'm really keeping an eye on, who I think could really hop in here, is Bubba Wallace. Well, we know how well he's done on mile and a half, and we know how much he loves Talladega.
Yes.
So other than the road course, now granted, Bubba's going to have to kind of do what he did at Bristol and just keep his head above water at, when he gets to the Roval down in Charlotte.
Just stay within himself.
But
Don't try to do anything special.
Bubba's got an opportunity to win at Texas or win at Talladega and put himself into that next group. So I think that's the kind of guy that I'm kind of taking a look at. And also Brad Keselowski right there on the cusp of getting in there, and the chance that we could have both of those Roush Fenway Racing cars make the final 8. Would speaking of bingo cards, would either one of us have had that on our bingo card when the year started?
We did not. And speaking of Bubba Wallace, on mile and a half's last 10 races, 4 top 5s in 9 races. So, I mean, he absolutely has been very strong on those mile and a half. So you are correct. That is a good number on him. Let's look at this round of the playoffs real quick because what we got here is the second round. The round, of course, before we get to the South Point 400. We got to preface that one. But so we're at Texas this weekend this is our Bushy McBush thing. It's the AutoTrader EchoPark Automotive 400. That's your company right there. You guys came up with that name. And then we go to the Yellowwood 500 in Talladega, and then, of course, the Bank of America Roval 400 down in Charlotte until we get to the third round. Another amazing cutoff race, South Point 400 Vegas, and then Homestead, the Dixie Vodka 400. That's our next upcoming races, but we got to focus on these 3 right here. This is what everybody's looking at. Pretty important round right here. The only kind of normal race, I guess you would say, would be Texas, right? Standard, it's a mile and a half, just like we know and love around here. Tyler Reddick won the race last year, so it's going to be Toyotas were good. Fords have been good on this year at Charlotte, which is, would you call the sister track to Texas? Charlotte had Ryan Blaney win this year for the Coke 600. So got a lot of guys we can talk about now.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about Texas this year is because it's a little bit of an unknown. This is the first time we haven't raced twice in Texas since I can remember. Now, last year and the year before, it was the All-Star race, but
still a race.
Nevertheless, they were still there twice. They had to set up for it. Well, this year the All-Star race moved to North Wilkesboro. This is the only time the Cup Series is visiting Texas Motor Speedway this year. So there are no data points this year. We've had one full Cup race with this new car there. Tyler Reddick won it, but Tyler Reddick won it driving for Richard Childress in a Chevrolet. Now, he's in a Toyota, and Kyle Busch is in his Chevrolet. So I think there's a lot of unknowns going into this race.
Yes, there is. And there's guys that have great track records here. I mean, look, mile and a half, everybody knew I loved the mile and a half, right? That was kind of what I loved to do.
And you love Texas.
I did love Texas. But
how many times you went there? 4?
4 in a row.
4 in a row.
And then it was a long drought.
You were like Max Verstappen of the Truck Series at Texas. That's why people stopped watching the truck race because, Brendan Gaughan's going to win this week, so I'm not going to watch. So.
I told our old buddy Eddie Gossage that if I won again, I wanted a pair of chaps. And everybody likes to call them a certain way, but all chaps are that way.
I know.
But I did tell him that if they, because I got some cowboy boots, but I said if I won again, he was going to have to get me a pair of chaps, and I'd come into the media center wearing nothing underneath.
Well, see, that's when they become that kind of chaps. Is when you don't have your Wranglers on underneath them.
Understood. I was going to come in without the Wranglers on. We're going to make a scene. But guys that are great here, Kyle Busch, look at this, 32 races, 18 top 10 finishes. And how about Kevin Harvick? 38 races, 24 How do you get 24 top 10s in 38 races?
Yeah, in a mile and a half track, that's pretty impressive. You know, you got to think Kyle Busch. Kind of think, okay, let's see. 32 races. I've won 4, 18 top 10s, and now I'm going to be driving the car that won here last year. If you're Kyle Busch, you kind of be thinking, okay, this is a week where we really need to decide: are we a player, are we a comer, or a goer?
Look, Kyle Busch needs to. They've kind of been a little helter-skelter, right? Kyle Busch runs really well, then he fades, and he runs well. He's not as consistent, as Kyle Busch wants to be. But like you said, Tyler Reddick won this race last year, leading 70 laps, led the most laps in the race, dominated this thing, pulled away in the end. He's in that team, in that car, and you look at these stats. This is a place that he absolutely loves. 4 wins, 14 of those top 5. Do you realize how tough it is to do 14 top 5s? That's almost 50%. He's like 47% top 5 when he races at Texas.
And given how many Xfinity races and truck races and everything else Kyle has run, Kyle probably has more laps around Texas Motor Speedway than any driver in the field. So he
only David Starr probably would have him beat.
Well, and I don't think those count in the driving school down there.
Hey, it's laps.
Well, you used to count those when before we repaved it and took away your advantage.
Still mad about that. had like 200,000 plus laps at the old Vegas, and then you guys changed it on me.
Didn't you get fired by the petty driving experience or something?
Multiple times. Multiple times. Those are stories for other days.
Yeah, I remember one time saying, Brendan's going to get ride-alongs. I said, no, he's not.
Nope, been fired already. All right, guys, we come back. Enough about band camp stories. We're going to get to win the odds to win at Texas and your top 3s and all the great stuff that professionally and unprofessional here give you.
This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Welcome back in, everybody. Brendan Gaughan, Jeff Motley, Circus Studio here, hanging out, talking everything that now is the AutoTrader Auto McParts Auto 400 at Texas Motor Speedway.
There's an EchoPark in there.
EchoPark somewhere in there. But we are talking all the odds to win, and to get right off the start, our favorite this week. No surprise here on a mile and a half racetrack, the Chevrolet of Kyle Larson. Kyle plus 450, but he's co-favorite there with Denny Hamlin, who, one of the hottest guys in the sport right now, plus 450 also. William Byron, 700. Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr., both at 800s. We got Christopher Bell, 11. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, both at 12. Brad Keselowski, 14. Chris Buescher, 15. Chase Elliott, 16-1. Bubba Wallace, 18. Ross Chastain, 22. Ty Gibbs, Kevin Harvick, both at 28. Joey Logano down there at 30-1. And Jeff, Joey Logano, 30-1. I think this might be a place where you can possibly steal something here at 30-1. I know that he's out of the playoffs, but he, last 10 races, 8 top 10s, finished second here in this race last year. That could be a great number when you really think, okay, he got knocked out, but they're not done.
Well, and you're talking about 2 guys with huge numbers on them that are out of the playoffs in Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano, who have incredible records at Texas. But I think the thing that I look at is the number of guys who just have creeped into the double digits who certainly could win this race. I mean, let's look at it. Ryan Blaney, okay, won the Coke 600. Kyle Busch, the most successful driver at Texas Motor Speedway. Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher. I mean, those guys every single week are bringing it. Chase Elliott. I mean, we got to believe he's going to win a race before the year's over, right? And then there's Bubba Wallace in there, a guy who's been so good on the mile and a half tracks. It's hard to go in there and say which one of these guys is going to win it, but I honestly believe that this win is going to come from one of those guys between Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace.
If you like that, then you definitely are liking some high odds right there. But how about Kyle Busch, the guy who's driving the race car that won this race last year, is sitting there at 12-1. That's a huge number on that. And even 800 on a Tyler Reddick, the guy who did win it, different team, but still, I mean, Reddick is sitting there great. Ryan Blaney won the Coke 600. He's 12-1. You just named him. And he won this track that is extremely similar to this place at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Coke 600.
And Blaney, I think, won here in the All-Star race. I know it's a shortened race, but he's comfortable here. And I think that's a part of it. And I think you've talked about it a lot. Drivers' confidence and drivers' attitude when they go into a racetrack. Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace are 2 guys who are going to go into Texas with a very good attitude with a lot of confidence. I think Kyle Busch is going to do. I don't know if Kyle Busch has it as much in his car right now because his car has struggled somewhat, but he's got to feel like he's going to a racetrack that he feels comfortable at, although I think it was the same way last week and it didn't exactly work out for him.
Let's get to the second page here because there's a couple names on the second page that do intrigue me. And we come up right off the bat with Alex Bowman at 45-1, Eric Jones 55, Daniel Suarez 55, then huge odds after that, way big right now. Eric Almirola 100, Ricky Stenhouse, Carson Hocevar, Austin Dillon, AJ Allmendinger all 150. Bigger than that. Chase Briscoe, that's embarrassing that Chase Briscoe is at Stewart Haas Racing is 200-1, and Ryan Preece 400-1. That's just that to me. If I'm those guys, I'm upset. And Austin Cindric 400-1.
400-1 in a Penske car.
Yeah, that does not bode well for what's going on. But what I like is Alex Bowman is a guy that he finished third this year at Vegas. He won at Vegas, last year. This is a guy that when he shows up, he shows up. But when he doesn't show up, man, we don't talk about him for weeks at a time.
Well, and Brennan, you know more about how these race teams work than I do. The guys, when you're out of the playoffs, though, how much attention is the race team? Like right now, are they not focusing mostly on Larson and Byron over there? Is Penske not going to focus on Blaney?
No, because here's the thing. Teams, this isn't the day of Jack Roush in the 2000s and the 2000 teens, when Jack Roush only had enough money for one team to run well. And Jack gave one team that money, and then Johnny Benson needed a sponsor. Johnny Benson got the good stuff. They signed John Deere, and then Johnny Benson doesn't run good anymore. It all goes back to Mark Martin. That was famous for what Jack Roush used to do. That's not that way at these big teams. There's a whole team of guys over on Alex Bowman's 48 Ally team that all they're focusing on is Alex and what he can do. So, no, I don't think so. And Alex Bowman, 45-1, we haven't talked about Alex in weeks.
No, I agree. And I get that part of it, but I also know how these teams, this team made the playoffs, so we're going to switch the pit crew from the guy
they do that.
But does that not send a message to your team that this guy's more important?
They haven't done that.
Well, no, they have not. Hendrick hasn't done that.
Right. Rick tends to not do that sort of stuff.
Hey, look, if you want to take a flyer on a 45-1, that's as good a 45-1 flyer as you're going to get. I will agree with you there. Some people don't need the points, by the way.
Let's get to our top threes because there's once again there's value in this top three number, especially on that when you talked about Bubba Wallace is such a high odd to win. Well, top three, it still gives him that high odd. Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, your co-favorites at 130. William Byron 200. Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr. at 230. And here we get some decent numbers for top threes. Plus 330 for Seabell, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch 350, Brad Keselowski 400, Chris Buescher, who's done well everywhere in the last 6 races, 425. Chase Elliott 450. Bubba Wallace 500. Ross Chastain 6. Ty Gibbs coming on. Ty Gibbs plus 800. Joey Logano 850. Kevin Harvick 900. Kevin Harvick, by the way, I told you this stat before the show started. Number 1 point getter last 10 races at Texas Motor Speedway. 8 top 10s, 7 top 5s, 3 wins.
What's the number 1 point getter last 5 races though, and where does Harvick fall on that list? That's all I'm saying. The Harvick of today is not the Harvick of 3 years ago. I hate to say that because we all love Kevin, but it's just not the same. Now, the guy that you mentioned his name there, the guy that I just love here for a top 3 is Chris Buescher. Not only has he run well, name me one track that he wants to win at and run well more than any other.
Oh no, Texas is.
It's
so for people that don't know, this is Chris Buescher's hometown.
Right, this is
Texas
his hometown
Motor Speedway.
track.
So,
I mean, I think you're going to see Chris. You're going to see. Look, we're seeing the best of Chris Buescher every week. You're going to really see the best of Chris Buescher right I think, this week.
But even same thing. Let's go back to that Joey Logano number. I mean, I think Logano, just because he's out of the playoffs, doesn't mean that Joey Logano is not going to run well. He finished second in this race last year, led 15 laps. Logano is pretty strong. If there's going to be a Penske Ford that runs well, Blaney, who won the Coke 600, yes. But Joey Logano, they're going to try stuff now. Joey Logano's team, he said it on SiriusXM this week, they are going to try to do something to make this team better.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Is there a little bit of a feast or famine if you're Logano in there? Like, okay, can we stretch our fuel? Well, so what if we run out, right?
Well, and he's not worried about stretching fuel.
I'm just using that as an example that a guy's going to try to go off the book, if you will.
Yes.
Color outside the lines just to try to find a way to win a race.
Well, and that's what they said. He said on air. He said is what they're going to do now is, hey, if they wanted to try something they couldn't afford to try during the playoff run, now try it. They're going to try anything at the shop, work on things, try to do different setups, try to find things that weren't working in the past that may work in the future. And if they hit something, that's one of those things where that team ends up stinking up the show and you're going, man, where was that?
Well, if they hit it at Texas, they also know they've got Las Vegas and they got Homestead, a couple more 1.5-mile tracks to go the rest of the year, too.
And you got to remember, that's immediately going to help. Ryan Blaney's still in the playoffs. So if they hit something, that's going to help Ryan Blaney. So I really like that Joey Logano number. Kevin Harvick, I'll give you devil's advocate since you asked for it. Last 10.5 miles, not just Texas.
I said last five.
Well, no, and last 5 he was okay, but I'll give you the last 10.5 miles, which gives you a few more data points from this year.
Okay.
11th, 30th, 11th, 11th, 33rd.
I'm not betting him for a top 3.
9th at Vegas. That if you do just this year, he's got 1 top 10, 3 11th place finishes.
Yeah, I mean, and I hate that because, I mean, really, we really like Kevin, but it's just, I hate it.
Listen, Kevin's coming to our blackjack tournament, so I got to say Kevin at plus 900 is my favorite bet.
Yeah, we love Kevin. That's why keep saying we love Kevin. We do love Kevin.
Let's get to the second page here, and we got right off the bat once again Alex Bowman, who I was talking about earlier at 12-1, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez 15s, Al Mirola 25, Ricky Stenhouse, Carson Hocevar, Austin Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, Chase Briscoe 40-1. Then the guys further down on that one. I look at this and I go, that Eric Jones legacy team has been running a lot. Go back to Darlington. They've been running a lot better. Could they keep this going? Daniel Suarez, could he get some of that Trackhouse stuff going? But Alex Bowman, which one's going to show up? Those are 3 guys on the back page that I can look at right there and say, I do like 12, 15, and 15. But if you're honestly asking, go find the DraftKings top 10. There'll probably still be a plus 400, plus 500. I like that for a top 10.
And the guy that I kind of like, keep this in mind. If you want to take a flyer on somebody, 45-1 on Michael McDowell. And Michael McDowell's running well.
He's been running
week.
really well. They've been, but I'm just wondering how much their crew chief, Travis.
We're talking 45-1 here. He's not 3 times worse than Eric Jones. But his number's 3 times worse.
Hold on. He's been 3 times better than Eric Jones this year. So, I mean, absolutely. If you're looking for that one, the problem I have is there a team sigh? They're now out of the playoffs that Travis has been so aggressive all season and made these great calls.
You don't think they kind of knew going into Bristol that it was a feast or famine? I mean,
absolutely. But still, they had a chance.
They had a chance. I just think for value on a top 3,
45-1.
That one intrigues me, especially given the numbers on some of the
just
other guys.
Off the playoffs. I agree. All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to get our head-to-heads and start hitting our group matchups, and we still have prop bets this week also, and some of us did well last week. We can talk about that too.
This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Want to rewatch any part of today's show, or any past show for that matter, check out the Gone Racin podcast. It's free and available now at VSiN.com/podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. We give you all the latest news, odds, and everything you need to know to head straight to the betting counter before each and every NASCAR Cup race. While you're there, catch up on every VSiN show as well. VSiN.com/podcasts. All right. Well, once again, for Wyatt saved the day on that one from Professionally Unprofessional doing their normal job.
So I'm going to say over the last 24 hours, we have put the exclamation point on Professionally Unprofessional. So for everyone to know, we normally record the show on Thursday.
We got an extra day.
We're doing it on Friday because there was some technical difficulties on Thursday. About 5 minutes before the show, you sat down and realized you had the wrong script. You had some scripts from football show that you just picked up off the counter.
I could have done it.
And then Wyatt, our producer, he's got one job to let you know when you're supposed to do something. And literally 2 seconds before
he says, more than one.
He says, we had one job right before that segment, right? Before he says boogity, boogity, boogity. So I'm just saying, we're all bearing into responsibility over here.
And the worst is, who was in studio right before us? The consummate real professional.
We had a couple. We had them legends in here.
We had Brent Musburger in here.
We had Mike Pritchard in here.
We had. So we definitely the studio quality went downhill as soon as we kicked Brent out.
I mean, yeah, when the Godfather's in here and he leaves and it's left with us.
Hey, watching him do reads, is that awesome? God, he's so good.
That voice. I mean, yeah, I grew up on that voice.
Oh, we all did. All right, let's get back to the EchoPark, Echo-E, automotive, whatever. Sorry. Eddie, they're going to kill me. Marcus is going to call me.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like, you try to do business with this organization, and this is the way you repay them.
Should probably be a little nicer to that. All right, let's get to the head-to-heads before I lose all my jobs. The head-to-heads, I got a couple that I really like this week. And right off the bat, we talked about Kevin Harvick. What has he done for me lately on those 1.5 miles? But he's the favorite against Joey Logano, plus 110 to minus 130. That screams at me right in the middle of that page, right off the bat.
Yeah, and that's probably the one that I like the most as well. I mean, my problem with these is all the plus lines are against Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson.
Yes.
And it's the two hottest guys on the circuit right now. The Keselowski plus 110 against Bell, because, again, I just think Bell, although Bristol, fortunately for him, he didn't have a problem. Bell's a guy that's had a number of issues this year.
Yes, but Bell still run. This is the type of place we think he's going to run well. The other one I like the 2 plus lines for Tyler Reddick. I like Tyler Reddick plus against his team, team owner Denny Hamlin, and I like Tyler Reddick on the plus line against Kyle Larson. It's just Tyler Reddick won this race last year. Tyler Reddick finished 5th at the Charlotte race earlier this year, beat both of those drivers in doing that. And I really like the Tyler Reddick numbers. Pick one or either one. I would lean towards Denny, honestly, more than Kyle Larson, just because Denny's more prone to mistakes. But I do like that, a couple head-to-heads here.
Well, I agree with that part of it. And honestly, I'd take Tyler Reddick on a plus line against anybody but those two guys. That's the two guys that I'm just not ready to go take Tyler Reddick on.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get to our group matchups, Mr. Motley, and we have some fun group matchups today as we were going through the list earlier. And Group A kicks off with the usual suspects. We got Kyle Larson at plus 250. We got Denny Hamlin plus 250. We got Martin Truex Jr. plus 285, and we got Tyler Reddick at plus 290. Now here you go. The two guys that have said he's plus 110 with, he is now the dog in this one at plus 290. And Truex Jr., no offense, I think that the Westgate brings us these from the Superbook. I get Martin Truex finished 3rd at Charlotte this year. Okay, I get that, but I think there might be a typo right there having him in Group A with how he's been running lately.
I totally agree with you. And why go bet Tyler Reddick plus 110 against Larson or 110 against Denny Hamlin when you can get him plus 290 against both of them in Group A? I mean, you're talking about value. Now, there's some value because that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this as a 3-man race.
Yep. And here's the thing. I like him. I'd rather have plus 110 against one guy than have to beat both of them, though, at 290.
But 290.
But I still like the 290. I do absolutely still like him as the dog at 290. Especially if you like him, there you go. There's your better odd on him. So I do like that a lot. Group B starts out with William Byron at plus 200, then Christopher Bell 240, then Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher 320, 350. I'm sorry, Westgate. Have you not been paying attention to Chris Buescher lately?
Well, the first thing I think of is go bet both RFK cars here.
Look, Byron was the hottest thing in the sport recently. And in the mile and a half.
Until the last few weeks.
Till the last few weeks. But Byron in the last 10 mile and a halves is the man to beat. This year he's 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Kansas had a bad day, 15th. But, I mean, he's at Vegas. He won Vegas this year. William Byron's been hot on the mile and a halves. But still, Chris Buescher, arguably one of the hottest guys in the sport that, once again, not being Buescher believers, I'm here. 350, the dog.
Believe
Brad
in
Keselowski,
Buescher, baby. Believe in Buescher, baby.
Brad hasn't beat him in the last 10 races. They've been right behind each other. Brad's running great. They're finishing 7th and 5th and 4th, and they're both right there. But Chris Buescher's beat him every week. Unless Seabell's going to go up near the wall, maybe make a mistake, crack an egg, do a little body damage. You got Chris Buescher at 350 in Group B. I'm sorry. The way he's been running, I'm all over that.
I love that number too.
It's enticement. They're making him 350. I think that should not be 350 in Group B.
No,
I feel they're off there.
Brendan, you and I are basically we are reading from the same book right here because I'm with you. I like both RFK cars here. I really do.
I like Byron plus 200. They're giving me a reason not to bet him. But Byron can be mile and a half. Byron is the man. But still, Chris Buescher lately. You love to talk about what have you done for me lately. Chris Buescher lately has been just phenomenal. Losing our freaking picks by 1 spot, finishing 4th, but still phenomenal.
And this is a group where he could finish 4th and lose a group.
And lose the group. But still, I do like Chris Buescher right there. That enticement that Westgate's given me is too big. Let's get to Group C. Group C leads off with Kyle Busch is your leader at 260, co-favorite with Chase Elliott, co-favorite with Ryan Blaney, and then Ross Chastain 290. The three co-favorites are tough. Blaney won this race. Blaney good 1.5 miles. Won Charlotte this year, but Kyle Busch to me is the big sticky point there. Chase Elliott, I said I'm going to bet Chase Elliott every week till the season runs out. I think I'm going to. May I politely decline that statement that I made earlier?
You're welcome to walk that back.
Okay, thank you.
You can walk that back.
I'll walk that back. I like Kyle Busch at 260
because you know more now than you knew when you made that statement.
I do. I've done some of my homework on that, so I'm just going to say.
Well, and the eye test, he's not passing.
And the eye
test
isn't passing. So I like Blaney. I like Kyle Busch. I like the 260s. If you're asking me my favorite, Chevrolet's been stronger on 1.5 miles than the Fords, even though Blaney won the Coke 600. I like Kyle Busch.
What do we say every week? There's a group out there that we're just like.
That's your group today?
Just not touching that one. Just not touching this one. I can make a case for and against all four of them. And, I'm not touching that one.
All right. There's your group. I respect that. I'll respect that. Let's get into Group D. And Group D kicks off with Kevin Harvick at 260, with Joey Logano there at 260. Ty Gibbs, 275. Alex Bowman, 275. Okay. I know I just spent some time talking about, Alex Bowman shows up when he shows up and Ty Gibbs having good runs, but I think this to me is the easiest one to handicap. I just look right at Joey Logano.
Well, and I agree with you on Joey Logano. I mean, to me, I'm looking at Joey Logano here. Look, we were talking about it being 30-1.
30-1 to win the race, and I was liking it.
You got plus 260. Harvick, they've struggled. Gibbs, you never know.
Gibbs is the wild card in this group.
Bowman, they just haven't done enough.
I would absolutely take Gibbs as the wild card in this group because coming off a really good run at Bristol, coming off a bunch of good runs. I think he's on a streak of like 3 or 4 top 10s in a row. He's coming off great runs. Ty Gibbs is absolutely the wild card, but Logano is the strongest in this group consistently. Alex Bowman is one of those I'm giving you on the if come. If Alex Bowman shows up, look, with the Alex Bowman that when he rattles off 2 and 3 wins in a row, if that Alex Bowman's here, there's no way he's Group D and the dog.
But we haven't seen that Alex Bowman since 2022. We really haven't. I mean, that's the reason he didn't even make the playoffs this year.
And because he missed
he missed a few races. I get that, but he still could have won somewhere.
He still could have won, but he just absolutely. But when he shows up, he shows up. But until he shows up, Joey Logano to me right there, 260. I like that. I think that's too easy for me to turn down. 260 is a good number.
And it's a scary week. You and I are agreeing a lot on stuff here.
We're going to give people a kiss of death.
We're in trouble. We're in trouble.
All right, let's get to Group E. Group E leads off with, how about this name out of Group E? Carson Hocevar is the favorite in Group E.
Who, by the way, will be appearing in the South Point booth on Sunday morning of South Point 400 race weekend.
Thanks, Carson. We appreciate it. Carson Hocevar is the favorite at 265. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 265. Austin Dillon 270. AJ Allmendinger 270. Okay, you asked me the group that I just look at and say might be the most boring group in the field. Yeah. You found mine.
Yeah, I can see that. To me, there's a little bit I like Austin Dillon here, and I like Stenhouse. I really like those two guys.
Stenhouse, last 10 races, 1.5 miles, 2 top 10s. Austin Dillon, last 10 races, 4 top 10s. A lot better average finish. Hocevar, kind of a wild card in that. The Dinger, I think we've just kind of stopped talking about the Dinger now. So I think
I would say a very disappointing season for Dinger. I expect a little more out of him this year.
So did I. But Dillon 270, Carson Hocevar, the wild card. If you can go over experience, I got Dillon. I circle him all day, but otherwise it's kind of a blah. All right, we come back. We'll give you Group F. We'll give you the props, how we did last week, and our picks for this week.
This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Welcome back to Gone Racin, everybody. God, I love being us. It is so much fun. The professionally unprofessional.
We just had Hurricane Isaiah go flying right through
the screen goes black, and I look at Isaiah, and I'm like, in 5, and he goes, I know, I wrote the schedule. And he walks by, gives me a dap, and just makes it on through. God, I love us. Who has more fun than us, Motley?
Nobody.
I agree.
And you know what? The crew enjoys our show. They have a lot more fun with us too.
We definitely lighten the mood a little. Let's get our Group F out of the way. And Group F, this one right here to me, I'm sorry. Michael McDowell's 250, Chase Briscoe's 270, Ryan Preece 275, Corey LaJoie 275. Excuse me, who was just in the playoffs and has had a really, really amazing, and it wasn't in the playoffs because he won just one race and did something he pointed his way into the playoffs legit. Michael McDowell is 250 in Group F.
Yeah, boy. I hope the pit crew doesn't pick Michael McDowell
Yeah,
because
so do
I'm
I.
sure that will completely screw him because I'm definitely going Michael McDowell. In fact, this one, I have no conversation for this. I mean, Michael McDowell's the guy in this group. I think, you said you thought Logano in D was the easiest pick. I think McDowell in F is the easiest pick.
I mean, it's a playoff driver and a guy that's run playoff caliber. He missed it by 11 points. It wasn't like he missed it by 45 points and he was just there because he won a race early in the season and that was it. This is a guy that's run well. And Chase Briscoe, no offense, not run well. Ryan Preece, not run well. Corey LaJoie, career season, by the way, for Corey LaJoie. Don't want to dog Corey LaJoie in this group, but Corey LaJoie, not the caliber that Michael McDowell has had on this season.
No, I'm all in on Michael McDowell, Group F.
Yeah. And I have the pit crew picks now. No, I think we didn't give him a kiss of death this week. All right, let's get to the prop bets. We got our usual, the manufacturer prop, and no surprise here, the favorite, but a surprise that it's co-favorite. You got Chevrolet at 135, Toyota at 135, and the Fords at 350. The enticement at 350 is almost there for me, Jeff. It's very, very, very close.
Well, you're on the Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney
those two,
wagon, I believe.
period.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that's the hard part is you've only got two guys. Boy, I don't know if 350 is enough to entice me there.
I just look at, last year and this year were not the same. Logano finished second last year. Blaney finished fourth. Briscoe finished fifth. The Fords were much better last year than this year on these things. Chris Bouchard, let's not leave him out of the conversation. Chris Bouchard's been the number
Buescher
one
and
Ford
Keselowski, yeah, we got them
of the
in there,
year.
yep.
But Blaney did win the Coke 600 and didn't win it like, okay, everybody had a fuel mileage. He led 163 laps. And
that
that
is
is
the class of the field.
that's the most similar race to Texas. The only track left that is like
200 miles shorter.
yeah. So I don't dislike the 335 on
Well, and I don't hate it, but I'm not ready to go pick it. I think
agree.
that would be the best way for me to say it.
All right, let's get to how we did last week because
Yes,
two of us
let's. I'm excited.
want to talk about this. One of us is very excited that he no longer has a mic and a camera in front of him, and that would be the pit crew. Motley, I was bummed. Do you remember last week right before we had our picks, and I said, oh, I like that even money bet on the head-to-head, but then I changed my mind and I didn't take it? That bet would have won. So I only won 2 of my 3.
Yeah, you send me scrambling because you send me a text, 3 out of 5
3 out of
isn't
5.
bad.
3 out of
Then I
5.
started adding them up, and I'm like, he only won 2. It made me add them 3 times to realize that, no, Brendan's wrong and I'm right.
I have it circled on my sheet. Does that count?
I've been known to be wrong.
No, me and Wyatt have to check his scoring every week just so everybody knows. But I did have it circled on my sheet. Does that count if on my sheet it was circled?
It's whatever you say on the air is what counts because that's what our listeners and our viewers expect us to be doing.
But Jeff Motley, you won 4.3 points. I was 3.8 points. So not, good weeks for me and you.
Well, we both had Reddick in Group C.
Yep.
So we both picked that one. I had McDowell, Group F. I'm riding with him again. I'm going to be riding with him again this week. Just a little foreshadowing
I
there.
had the Toyota to win.
You had the Toyota to win.
And the pit crew, they picked McDowell to win Group F, and he did win Group F. So they were just a little bitty minus. So me and you, I don't think you can catch me at this point, but
you're like Mr. What Mr. Moneypenny from the Monopoly game, the guy with all the money.
With the
That's
monocle?
you. Yep, that's you. Me, I'm kind of just treading water and
look like a pirate. Yeah,
I think the pit crew
they're all
is
making fun of me right now.
The
I
pit
can
crew
hear
is
them.
like has hit go to jail without a get out of jail free card.
There's no get out of jail card. They have to hit a 55 to 1 shot just to get even money, basically, right now.
Pretty close.
So,
yeah.
All right, well, let's get to our picks, and of course we go worst to first, and worst this season, Mr. Motley.
That's the guys that don't have a camera or a microphone
That's
anymore.
right. Oh wait, look, they have a camera in the studio. There he
there's
is.
A camera in the studio.
There he is.
Wyatt is on. There he is. He doesn't have a microphone, so that
That's
makes
right.
it even worse.
He just given the don't come to me now.
Right, we got silent movies going on back there.
I love it. Isaiah walks in. They find a camera to show Wyatt. I like it. Okay, we got Tyler Reddick over Denny Hamlin. I'm kind of bummed because foreshadowing, I might have that one at plus 110. Brad Keselowski over Christopher Bell. They've got their Brad Keselowski pick. There's Wyatt's number. Ryan Blaney to win Group C, Ty Gibbs to win Group D, and Austin Dillon to win Group E. I don't dislike their picks in that one. The Brad Keselowski one, I think, is a little gutsy, but I don't dislike their picks.
Interesting that we're not sharing any picks between. I'm not sharing any picks with the pit crew, so I'm going to go and take a top 3. I'm going to take Tyler Reddick for a top 3 at plus 425. I love that number. I'm going into Group A because I like the fact that I get a plus 250 on Kyle Larson. I really kind of think it can be a Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin head up, and it's like Denny won last week, so it's going to be Kyle's turn to win this week. So I'm going to go Kyle Larson to win in Group A. The rest of mine are in the groups. I'm going into Group D, and I'm going to take Joey Logano. I mean, we've talked him up. We've talked about how much we think he's a huge favorite to win Group D, so I'm going there. I'm going to go Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in Group E. I'm not really exactly sure why. I just feel like out of those 4 guys, he's the guy who seems to have run the best this year. He did make the playoffs, and he had a good run last week at Bristol, so I like Stenhouse there. And then, look, we talked about him. Michael McDowell did it last week, Group F. Michael McDowell all over again, Group F.
I can't say I dislike a lot of those. I'm really glad they didn't have a camera while you're reading yours because I lost a sheet.
You lost a sheet. Well, I have your picks.
No,
I have your picks if you need
I found it.
some.
I was laughing. You're sitting there talking. I'm making sure I'm off air, and I'm going, "Where's the sheet?" I'm like, "Oh, there it is."
You know, if people are watching on camera, look at how neat I've got my paperwork over here.
I got a computer in the mic.
Brendan has got a laptop, and you got enough papers. It's like that guy in that movie Network or something. You know.
Listen, I got the mic here. I'm old. I can't see. You got your glasses. To see, you got to take your glasses off to read. I got mics in the middle of the thing. It's just I'm discombobulated still, but I found it. We're good. I got my picks.
It's your process, and as long as it works for you.
I have a process. Exactly. Didn't say we like it, but I have a process. All right, I got 2 head-to-heads. The first one I'm taking Joey Logano versus Kevin Harvick. I like that 110 number. Joey Logano is in that head-to-head versus Kevin. Sorry, I know what he's done on the stats, but Joey Logano much better this season than him. And I also like Tyler Reddick against Denny Hamlin, the same pick as the pit crew. I do like that. Look, Denny is known to make mistakes. And at Texas, Denny is famous for a few of his pit road mistakes at Texas. So I like those 2 right there in the head-to-heads. And, of course, how have I been kicking your butt this year? By winning a lot of head-to-heads. Then I'm going to go into the groups, and I'm sorry, Chris Buescher, the dog in Group B at 350. I look at that and go, I got to jump all over that. Chris Buescher's been so strong. He may lose. If Chris Buescher loses it, we lose it because he finishes 4th and somebody in front of him finishes 3rd. But I'll take that because I'm proud of him. He's been kicking butt. And then I got Group D, Joey Logano. I'm going double down with Joey there against Kevin Harvick. And Michael McDowell in Group F, the playoff guy at 250. Just way too much to pass up on that.
So we got 2 of the same picks.
Yep, we got 2 of the same. And the pit crew and I have 1 of the same. So we got the Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin. So nobody has the Gone Racin kiss of death where we've all jumped in it.
We've only gotten that like once, I think, all year.
No, we've had a few more than that.
That we actually got it right?
Oh, no, that we got it right.
No, that's what I mean. We've had several times where we've all 3. I think only one time, and it was early in the year, like back in the spring, I think we got one right.
I don't remember.
And we thought, oh, this is a precursor of things to come.
Maybe. I've won so many bets this year, it's hard for me to keep track.
Oh, boy. Wow. Whew.
Who's up 44 points? Can we show that graphic again? Hey, where's that graphic of the pit crew from their win last year with
now the bandages on
with
them
the belt, and the WWE belt. They started strong with that thing. And listen, my most disappointing driver almost came through on the disappointing side for me. Almost got knocked out first round. Which it would have been disappointing. He was regular season points champion, but it would have been disappointing if he got knocked out first round.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Just saying. All right, Mr. Motley, 1 minute left in the show, and thank you very much. We've had a little bit of fun. We're getting ready to talk your sister. Are you going to this track? Do you have to be at Texas?
No, I don't have to
go.
I do one real quick. 3 weeks from now, we have the Brendan Gaughan Celebrity Blackjack Tournament coming up. We've got Kevin Harvick. We've got Chris Buescher, Rick Allen. We got Daniel Hemrick. We got Rusty Wallace, Derek England of Vegas Golden Knights. We're going to get a couple more. I'm pretty excited about that. It's coming up on
I didn't name it.
On Thursday night, October the 12th. I may have had something to do with that. I don't know. But
I didn't name it.
I figured if we put your name on it, then you had to go get all the celebrities.
Well, listen, because I'm not a celebrity, so that's why I had to put. So I have to find somebody.
No, the scary thing is, you guys come and make it to the final table, and he's going to deal.
I'm your dealer.
He's the dealer.
That's still legal. We had to check it. All right, guys, that's our show for today. Thank you for listening to everything we got. All things AutoTrader EchoPark Automotive 400. I got it right that time. We'll see you next week when we break it down and talk about Talladega.